The intriguing world of numismatics ranges from the high-end collections of the world, stashed away in a safety deposit box, to the low-end, fake currency, even wooden nickels. Wooden nickels have been used for years, perhaps at your local tavern when the barkeep sees fit to award you a free drink. For years they were used as a business card of sorts, a low-cost but memorable and fun piece of phony currency. As such, they offer a doorway to the past, evidence of long-gone businesses without any other traces left behind. Come with me as I climb through this portal, flying deep into years gone by, riding on a wooden nickel. Over here, around 63rd and Kedzie, specifically 6250 South. So if you're looking for a unit to lease to peddle your wares, this would be it. Years ago, this would have been the home to Chicken Unlimited. Found a wealth of information on Chicken Unlimited. This chain did not really exist north of Madison Avenue unless you count suburbs. So I had never heard of it, but apparently had quite a following. Find all kind of ads and even a full-blown commercial. Let's check it out.
We want your honest opinion. Does this sound fair to you? Save 38 cents on a complete hamburger lunch at Chicken Unlimited. Save 38 cents on a complete hamburger lunch this Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
48th and Pulaski, Archer Heights, rolling up on 4807 South Pulaski. Recently, the home of Kaboo. Much previous to that, Blue Sky Lounge. Had a bit of an issue here with some deviation between 4807 and 4809. I had trouble finding any information on the Blue Sky until I found it under the alternate address. Looks like they were open until 2017. Their Facebook is still active. Rest in peace to Blue Sky Lounge. Recently and dearly departed. Here we are, 5151 Archer and Colon. Home of Ted's Dugout, and the mysterious Poka-dot Lounge. Not Polka, P-O-L-K-A, but P-O-K-A. Once I got the spelling right, I got a multitude of old advertisements from the 70s. Looks like the Poka-dot Lounge was a place to be. Found numerous articles about the famous Marsha. Never did narrow down exactly what style of music or style of entertainment she had going. Looks like she did it for a number of years. One of these places, no address given, none needed. Archer and Colon, find it or stay home. Over here at 2994 South Archer, Bridgeport, kind of on the border of Chinatown. Currently the home of, if you read Cantonese or Mandarin, whichever that is, previously the home of the Doghouse. It's a great name for a bar. I like to stop by the Doghouse. Doing a little research, taking it back to the late 40s, at this address we find the L. Hintz Tavern, no doubt named for its proprietor, perhaps Mr. Larry Hintz, don't know. Fast forward a couple years, and this is where things get just too much to even believe. In 1950, we've got a news story about a dog show, and who had the winning dog, a collie, was a young man named Hintz at this address. Okay, well, maybe that's the son, but whoever it is, there's our connection. But where's the Doghouse come into this? Later that year, we've got an ad for the Doghouse. Okay, now things are rolling. But only a short time later, in 52, the place is for sale with the specific reason given due to illness. Very sad. Right around that same time, in 51, we've got an ad where the family is selling off, trying to rent out a vacation home, again, due to some catastrophe that's happened in the family. Place reopened under the same name in 55. I gotta believe it's a different family at this point, keeping the name. Try to get those locals back out of Bridgeport in here to have a few drinks down at the tavern. But by 1958, closing again. Very interesting history here of the Doghouse, 2994 South Archer Avenue. 3248 West 111th Street here in Mount Greenwood. We've got a shiny new strip mall. This property did not exist back in 2007, which is the oldest version of Google Maps Street View available. Looks like it wasn't built till about 2017, previously the home of Vic's Hamburgers. You can check out this badass pin back that I found. Actually, even cooler than the wooden nickel. I did also find An obituary for a Mrs. Graff, the previous owner of Vic's. Rest in peace to two Mount Greenwood legends. It's a snowy morning in East Side here at 11046 South Ewing, home of, one time, East Side Stamp and Coin. The bad news is I can't tell you a gosh darn thing about East Side Stamp and Coin, but I can tell you plenty about the house. Let's have a little chat. The house was built in 1963, one of two model homes in the neighborhood built by the Warman Construction Company. Later that year, the home was sold by the owner of Warman Construction, one Mr. Milton Warman, to the very uniquely named Geophil Osinski. The county recorder of deeds shows three other owners of the home between 1976 and today, but I cannot connect any of them with East Side Stamp and Coin. So I began to take a closer look at Milton Warman. Mr. Warman was born in 1922. According to the 1940 census, at which time he was 17, he grew up at 7417 South Luella in South Shore with his mother and father, both immigrants from Poland, and his two sisters. The longtime Southeast Side resident lived at East End Avenue and 86th Place for a number of years. That span of time saw him experience a car wreck in 1951, a fire in 1956, and being burglarized in 1958. But it was 1962 that saw him emerge as the hero of South Chicago when he assisted a total stranger who had just hacked off part of his thumb on the bandsaw in his home workshop. Mr. Warman died in 2015 at the age of 92. Over here, East Side, 105th and Ewing, 10500. Currently the home of Mr. Chico, the 10th Ward Alderman. Much more recently, the home of Susan Sedlowski Garza, longtime alderwoman. But let's take it way back to the East Side Water Garden. What kind of a crazy name is that? Appears to be basically fancy creative name for a fish aquarium type store. If we take it way back to 1938, we've got Lynn's Bakery baking up some pastries and baked goods here. The ads for Water Garden start in about 1958, 1959, and then we have just a completely absurd story in 1963 about a poor girl who apparently witnessed her dog being run over by a car, along with the current owner of the Water Garden, and of course he pledged to gift her a free dog from his collection here at the Water Garden, because apparently at that time he had diversified beyond just aquariums and fish. Wasn't too long after that we see the for sale sign go up, and now here we are with Mr. Chico. Of course, Susan Sedlowski Garza, important to note, her father, Ed Sedlowski, the namesake behind Eddie Fest, which I've documented not long ago. They recently moved it from East Side to Pullman, which seemed stupid, so I refused to go. But it is what it is. Just taking a quick look across the street at the wonderful sign here, Ewing Liquors. I have to be the only maniac on earth that has a framed photo of that sign in their bedroom. Yep, I sure do. Down here at South Shore, 79th and Kingston. Why? To talk about this man, Victor Torsberg. Entertainer? What do we know about Victor Torsberg? Let's have a little chat.
I was born in Chicago in 1906. Saw my first magic show at a church on South Michigan Avenue in about 1914 or 15. I really got interested when a friend of mine came up with a set of tricks. From then on, I was a goner. I met George Boston early in 1920, and as he was already a full-fledged performing magician, I was in.
Word has been received here of the death on Christmas Day of Victor Torsberg, 73, husband of the late Zelda Borgelt Torsberg, Havana native. He was born July 14, 1906 in Chicago, a son of Charles and Sigrid Erickson Torsberg. Surviving are a son, Robert of Deerfield, a daughter, Miss Diane Seaman of Lindsay, Ohio.
Mr. Torsberg went to Tilden High School in Englewood. His parents lived at 1305 East 69th Street in 1950. This may have been the house young Victor grew up in. Victor and Zelda raised their children at 7310 South Jeffrey and likely lived there until Zelda's death in 1968, when Victor possibly moved to the apartment on Kingston Avenue.
From 1926 to 1931, Mr. Torsberg performed as an actor with the Edith Ambler Stock Company, a traveling vaudeville group where the talent was also the crew who set up and had to tear down the show. During a stop in Havana, Illinois in 1928, he came across a young lady who worked at the local post office. 10 days later, he asked her to marry him. She convinced him to wait until September 1929. Their first child, Diane, was born in 1930. In 1935, fellow magician Werner Dornfield suggested to Vic that Jim Sherman needed an assistant for his magic and gift shop in the Palmer House Hotel. The National Magic Company began as just a counter in that small gift shop in the hotel arcade. It later moved upstairs to a larger space and had a number of demonstrators working there daily. In 1940, he and his wife got into a car wreck in Chatham. The driver was his brother-in-law, though his sister was not present. Victor and Zelda were both hurt, as were two other passengers who I am guessing were his brother-in-law's aunt and uncle. Tracking through the Torsberg family can be difficult, since Victor's brother Charles was actually Charles Jr., and Charles Jr.'s twin Sigrid was named after her mother. To make matters even more confusing, Victor's mother's maiden name was Erickson, and this coincidentally became Victor's sister's married name. To clarify, I put together this family tree. I'm going to wager that in that car wreck, they were headed to her home, which she shared with her husband. They lived only blocks away at 8029 South Champlain. About a mile east of there, his sister later owned a beauty parlor, notable from when she was later robbed for the staggering sum of $9. Back to Sigrid's twin, Charles Jr. There are many mentions of Victor working for nearly 2 decades at National Magic Company as a demonstrator. I later discovered via the 1940 census and Charles Jr.'s obituary that he also worked there doing the same. The twins passed away within 6 months of each other in 2007, both at the age of 91. In this article from 1959, he bemoans the difficulty in making a living from this industry and refers to his new job with Hazema. Despite that, he was president of Assembly No. 3 of the Society of American Magicians, president of the Wizards Club, 1943, president of Ring 43, International Brotherhood of Magicians, and president of Magic Masters, 1962. Victor Torsberg died in his sleep on Christmas morning, 1979. In a 1980 industry magazine, it noted, "It was comforting to his family and friends that he was in his son's home, rather than in the small house in which he lived alone," no doubt referring to his apartment in South Shore, the community he grew up in and lived probably all of his life. When asked in 1964, what kind of magic does Vic Torsberg like, he had this to say. "I personally prefer to work from a platform. I feel as though I am showing off when I try to do close-up work. It is a quirk, definitely, but I just do not feel comfortable trying it at a table. I also feel that it is much more of a challenge to do a show on a stage than it is to do a close-up, because there is so much more involved."
This wooden nickel has taken me on quite a journey. Journey's not over.